What if ancient alien technology held the power to reshape reality itself? Would you protect it or use it? Welcome to Beyond the Stars, where every story is a doorway to the unknown. Tonight we follow Lieutenant Arin Thalos, the lone survivor of an ambush, and Cal Rayner, a battle-scarred mercenary, as they uncover a secret buried on a dead world, a secret that could change the fate of the galaxy. Stay with us till the end, because in this story, survival isn't the end, it's the beginning. Chapter 1, The Red Soil of Nexus. The twin suns of the Nexus system cast a harsh, unrelenting light across the desolate remains of Outpost Theta 7. Once a proud sentinel of the Galactic Confederation, the outpost now lay in shattered ruins, twisted metal frames jutting out of cracked stone, cables hanging like vines in a jungle of decay. The air shimmered with heat and the faint stench of ozone and scorched circuitry. Lieutenant Arin Thalos stumbled backward over a pile of rubble, boots skidding against powdered debris. Her breath came in ragged bursts, each inhale scraping against her ribs like fire. Her crimson-red skin, a signature trait of the no-arid species, was smeared with a mixture of her own violet blood and the greenish ichor of the Rian raiders who had ambushed her squad. Her silver-white hair, usually braided tight in regulation style, now hung loose and tangled, matted with sweat and dirt. Despite the trembling in her arms, she raised her pulse rifle and snarled, "Come on, you bastards! I'm not finished yet." 6 of them remained, their insectoid exoskeletons glinting beneath the suns, mandibles clacking in glee as they surrounded her. The leader, a bulky Reen with cybernetic mandible enhancements, hissed in broken standard, "Pretty one bleeds. Worth more alive." Arin pressed her back against the rusted remains of a collapsed water reservoir, the cool metal digging into her shoulders. She had nowhere left to run. Her ammo indicator blinked red, and her limbs were screaming for rest. But she wouldn't surrender. Not to slavers. Not today. "I'd rather die than be sold at one of your markets," she spat, leveling her rifle at the closest raider. The Reen raised a jagged blade, chittering laughter following his movement. "Not your choice, red meat." A sharp crack cut through the air. For an instant, Arin thought it might be thunder, but the skies above were cloudless. The lead Reen's head exploded in a burst of sickly green mist. He crumpled instantly. Confusion rippled through the remaining raiders. Another crack, another fell. Their chittering turned to panic. Arin's eyes darted toward the horizon where a figure strode confidently through the shimmering heatwaves. Clad in rugged black armor lined with glowing blue conduits, the newcomer was unlike anyone she'd seen. Too tall, too broad for a no-arid or a Reen. The weapon in his hands, a ballistic rifle from another era, roared again, felling a third. The remaining Reens turned to flee, but precise shots dropped them one by one. Silence settled over the battlefield. Arin stood frozen, rifle still aimed, her mind racing. The figure approached steadily. His armor bore scuffs and faded insignias. Beneath the retractable visor, a stubbled human face came into view. Firm jaw, piercing gray eyes, and a smirk that tugged at one corner of his mouth. "You can lower that," he said, gesturing toward her rifle, "unless you're planning to shoot your rescuer." Arin didn't lower it. "Humans aren't supposed to be in this sector. Who the hell are you?" The man stopped a few meters away and slung his weapon over his shoulder. "Name's Cal Rayner, independent contractor." He nodded to the corpses. "You're welcome, by the way." Arin's legs gave out. She slumped against the rusted metal, letting her rifle drop beside her ear. Pain screamed from every inch of her body, but she managed a faint smile. "You took down 6 Reen raiders solo. That's either insane or impressive." Cal chuckled. "You fought well, but now you're not alone." He knelt beside her, pulling a medical scanner from his belt. As he began tending to her wounds, Arin's gaze lingered on him, on the human who shouldn't be here, who had arrived just in time. And for the first time in days, hope flickered to life. Chapter 2. "Strangers with guns and scars," Arin hissed as the cold gel touched an open cut along her side. Cal Rayner worked with surprising gentleness, his gloved hands steady as he sealed the wound with a coagulant mist. The scanner in his other hand emitted a soft chime, indicating stabilized vitals. "Some of these need real med-bay treatment," Cal said not unkindly. "But you'll live, probably with a scar or two." Arin let out a ragged breath. Her training had drilled pain tolerance into her nerves, But this exhaustion went deeper, the kind that clung to her bones. She winced as another cut along her shoulder stung under Cal's ministrations. You're not Confederation and you're not part of the local patrols. So what the hell are you doing out here? Cal wiped a smear of green blood from her collarbone with a cloth, then leaned back, giving her space to breathe. I track patterns. This region's have been too quiet in the wrong ways. Pirates don't operate this deep unless something valuable's nearby. You're a scavenger then, she said, her tone edged with suspicion. He raised an eyebrow. Scavenger's an insult where I come from. Let's say I'm a contractor with a knack for timing and a habit of answering distress calls when others ignore them. She almost laughed. Almost. Her muscles ached just thinking about it. Lieutenant Arin Thalos, she said, forcing formality back into her voice. Confederation Scout Corps, Recon Team Sierra 12. Where's the rest of Sierra 12? Aaron's jaw clenched. Gone. Ambushed 2 days ago during our perimeter sweep. I activated the distress beacon when we lost the Eastern Ridge. You're the first signal response I've seen. Cal glanced skyward, frowning. That signal's not weak. I picked it up from 20 clicks out. Someone should have been here before me. The silence that followed was thick. Arin didn't answer. The possibility that the Confederation had written off her team, she wasn't ready to face that yet. Where's your ship? She asked, changing the subject. Couple kilometers west. Modified Terran Pathfinder. Older model, but she runs clean and quiet. Got upgrades where it counts. Arin started to stand, gritting her teeth as pain surged up her thigh. She got 3 steps before her knee buckled. Cal moved fast, catching her before she hit the ground. Okay, he said, supporting her weight with one arm. This isn't going to work. She pushed against his chest weakly. Don't even think about it. Too late, he said, already shifting his stance. With a practiced motion, Mardian motion, he lifted her into his arms. She wasn't light. Noirids were denser than humans. But he carried her like he'd done it 100 times. You smell like old gunpowder and engine oil, she muttered, more out of stubbornness than actual complaint. Flattery will get you everywhere, he replied, a grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. She allowed herself the briefest chuckle before her head lolled against his armored shoulder. Her eyelids fluttered shut. For a moment, it was easy to pretend she wasn't bleeding, that her squad hadn't been lost, that she wasn't utterly alone in hostile territory. Don't drop me, she murmured, voice thin. Wouldn't dream of it, Cal said. They moved through the ruins, the twin suns dipping low in the sky, casting everything in a copper glow. As they passed a collapsed statue of some forgotten founder of the outpost, Arin opened her eyes again. You're not what I expected from a contractor, she said. Most of them don't exactly offer first aid or carry people around. Cal's tone softened. Most don't stick around after the fighting stops either. But you're not most people. You held your ground. You lived. That counts for something. For a long stretch, neither of them spoke. The only sound was the crunch of Cal's boots on the dust-choked ground and the distant hum of wind across fractured steel. Arin found herself wondering what sort of life this man had lived. What brought a human this far from home, willing to risk death for a stranger? The shimmer of his ship appeared on the horizon like a mirage, sleek, dark, angular. Not Confederation issue, that much was clear, but sturdy, well-loved. Arin shifted slightly in his arms, forcing her eyes to stay open. Your ship got a name? Cal chuckled. Yeah, lucky break. She smirked faintly. Let's hope she lives up to it. Hang on just a little longer, Lieutenant, Cal said as they closed the distance. Let's get you patched up for real. And with that promise hanging in the warm evening air, they crossed into the ship's shadow. Chapter 3, Shelter Among the Stars. The interior of the Lucky Break was not what Arin expected. As Cal guided her up the boarding ramp and into the ship's belly, she braced for cramped quarters and grime-caked walls. Instead, she was greeted by a surprisingly clean, well-organized space. The entryway opened into a galley area with a compact dining nook, worn but cozy seating, and soft lighting that adjusted automatically as they entered. A faint herbal scent lingered in the air, calming, familiar somehow, though she couldn't place it. It's filtered through adder and moss, Cal explained, catching her glance. Neutralizes stale air and bad moods. He gently lowered her onto a padded bench and reached for a fresh med kit stashed beneath a nearby cabinet. The cushions molded to her weight, and for the first time in days, her body didn't feel like it was fighting gravity. "Nice ship," she murmured, allowing herself a glance around. She noticed small artifacts nestled into alcoves, figurines, patches from forgotten missions, even a physical book or two. "Contracting pays well when you don't die," Cal said. He returned with gauze, a regeneration patch, and a bottle of water. "Drink this first, slowly." Arin obeyed, grimacing slightly at the cool sensation down her throat. "You modified all this yourself?" "Most of it," he said, peeling back the temporary seal he'd applied earlier. "Bought her as salvage after a skirmish near Alpha Voth. She looked like hell. Took me 3 years and more credits than I want to remember, but she flies better than anything Confederation issues." He applied the patch to her worst wound, an angry gash along her flank. She stiffened but didn't cry out. "That's the worst of them," he said, his voice a low hum. "The rest are surface level. You're lucky." Arin snorted. "Lucky's not the word I'd use." A pause hung between them. Cal leaned back on his heels, resting his hands on his thighs. "You lost your team out there," he said, not as a question, but a statement weighted with quiet understanding. She nodded. "I don't even know if any of them made it out. I got separated during the ambush. By the time I circled back, all I found were bodies." Cal didn't offer the usual platitudes. "No, I'm sorry," or "they knew the risks." Just silence that gave her space to breathe. Arin looked away, her gaze landing on a hanging photo. Cal with a woman and a little girl, all laughing mid-frame. "Family?" Cal followed her gaze, then nodded slowly. "My sister and her kid, back on Mars Colony. I visit when I can. You ever think about staying there permanently?" His eyes darkened slightly. "I tried, but I'm not wired for stillness." Arin understood that more than she liked. The ship shifted slightly as atmospheric stabilizers kicked in. Outside, the twin suns continued their descent, casting bronze shadows through the hull's reinforced windows. "You can stay here tonight," Cal said, standing. "There's a spare berth through that corridor. You rest, eat, and tomorrow we figure out what the hell the Reens were doing that deep in Confederation space," she finished. Cal nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Exactly." As he walked away toward the cockpit, Arin sank deeper into the bench, letting the warmth and quiet of the lucky break settle over her like a blanket. She was still bleeding, still angry, still uncertain, but she wasn't alone, and for now, that was enough. Chapter 4. Signals and Shadows. The next morning, Arin awoke to the gentle hum of ship systems and the faint scent of fresh synth calf. She blinked against the soft lighting that simulated a sunrise and took a moment to orient herself. No alarms, no gunfire, just the sound of normalcy, something she hadn't felt in days. The bed in the guest berth had molded to her shape overnight, a luxury compared to the cold stone and twisted metal she'd been sleeping on before. Her body still ached, but it was the good kind of ache, the kind that promised healing. She found Cal in the cockpit, legs propped up on the console, cradling a steaming mug and squinting at a readout. A faint tune played in the background, something with soft strings and a rhythm that evoked open roads and distant stars. "Hope you like your calf black," he said, handing her a second cup as she entered. "Creamer's a luxury out here." Arin took a cautious sip. It was bitter and strong, exactly what she needed. Better than rations and recycled air. She slid into the co-pilot seat, still holding the warm mug between both hands. "You were up early." "Didn't sleep much," Cal admitted. "Ship picked up something weird on long range. Thought I'd dig into it." He gestured at the main console, which displayed a wideband scan of the surrounding region. "There's static interference near the southern ridge. Could be nothing, could be a jamming signal. If Reens are still sniffing around, they're masking their movement." "Let me see," Arin said, setting her mug aside. She leaned over the panel, adjusting the filters and isolating the signal layer. Her eyes narrowed. "That interference is too structured to be natural. Look, modulation pattern here and here. It's artificial. They're hiding something." Cal leaned closer. "Could be the source of that energy signature you mentioned. Whatever they're after, it's not just loot. And if your team was ambushed near that ridge, they may have stumbled on it first." Her voice was flat now, cold with focus. "And died for it." They sat in silence for a beat, both lost in calculations and consequences. Cal broke it first. You up for a recon run? Arin inhaled deeply. I'll manage. She stood with slow determination. 2 hours of rest is more than I've had in 3 days. Let me grab my gear. When she returned, fully suited and armored, Cal had packed a field kit, a compact med drone, and slung his rifle across his back. He handed her a sleek, human-made pulse sidearm with an extended grip. Spare in case things go loud. Lightweight, good accuracy. Arin inspected the weapon, checked the calibration, and made a minor tweak to the grip tension. Not bad, bit back heavy, Cal smirked. Didn't peg you for a weapons snob. I'm alive because I'm picky, she replied, holstering it with a satisfied nod. They descended the ship's ramp together, the heat outside already climbing. The twin suns blazed above, casting sharp shadows across the red soil. Every step crunched dry grit underfoot. Arin kept her rifle loose in her hands, scanning the horizon. As they moved across a low plain, Cal kept checking a compact tracker on his wrist. Still nothing definitive, he muttered, but the interference zone's holding steady. Feels like bait. You always this cautious? Arin asked. Not always, he replied, only when I think I might be walking into another ambush. By midday, they reached the edge of the southern ridge. The terrain dipped sharply, revealing a ravine overgrown with twisted vines and scattered with broken stonework. Arin's breath caught. The architecture below was clearly alien, massive, geometric, and ancient. The structures bore an eerie symmetry, with surfaces that shimmered faintly even in shadow. Progenitor, she whispered, awe threading her voice. Cal gave a low whistle. That would explain a lot. They dropped into a crawl and used a weathered outcrop for cover. 2 Reen scouts crept through a half-buried archway at the base of the ravine, their movements quick and precise. Scouting party, Arin muttered. They're not looting, they're looking for something. Cal tapped his comms. Whatever it is, they're deep in it already. Arin frowned. If they activate anything Progenitor without knowing what it does, then we've got a whole new level of problem, Cal finished. They backed away from the ridge carefully and began circling down the slope, boots finding traction along the dusty, crumbling rock. Each step sent pebbles skittering into the void below. Arin's heart pounded in her ears. And neither of them noticed the third Reen scout, silent, cloaked in adaptive camo, perched in the shadows of a fractured stone arch, a long-range transmitter blinking faintly in its claws. It watched them disappear into the ravine, then activated the beacon. Reinforcements were on the way. Chapter 5, Into the Bones of the Past. The ravine swallowed them in shadow as Arin and Cal descended into the ancient Progenitor site. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became, like even the wind was holding its breath. Towering pillars, some intact, some crumbled, rose from the ground like the fossilized ribs of some long-dead leviathan. Strange bioluminescent fungi had taken root along the crevices, casting a cool blue light that shimmered against the reflective surfaces of the alien architecture. This place feels alive, Arin whispered, her voice reverent. Cal nodded, like it's watching us. Their boots echoed as they crossed what might have once been a grand walkway. Symbols inlaid along the ground pulsed faintly, shifting patterns when viewed from the corner of one's eye. Arin paused to scan them with her wrist pad. Still functioning after all this time, she muttered, fascinated. Noerid archaeological teams dream of sites this intact. Cal kept his rifle at the ready. Let's just hope it doesn't decide we're intruders. And they reached the base of a stairway that descended into darkness. The air here was cooler, and the stone slick with condensation. Arin activated a shoulder lamp. Cal's armor emitted a soft beam of blue-white light. Together, the twin beams pierced the blackness ahead. About 20 meters in, they reached a chamber that had been shielded from time. The walls curved inward, forming a dome of interlocking panels. Floating in the center of the room was a device unlike anything Arin had seen, spherical with concentric rings orbiting a softly pulsing core. Progenitor artifact, she breathed. This must be what the Reens are after. As if summoned by the thought, a low chittering echoed behind them. Cal spun, rifle up. We've got company. 3 Reen scouts emerged from the shadows at the chamber's entrance, cloaked in partial stealth, mandibles twitching. Arin ducked and rolled behind a pillar as green energy bolts lanced past her. Cal returned fire with precise bursts, dropping one scout immediately. The other two scattered, taking cover. They must have followed us from the ridge, Arin called. Cal gritted his teeth. Or that third one we didn't see alerted them. Flank left, she said, syncing her movement with his. As Cal drew their attention, Arin moved along the curved wall, her feet silent on the alien floor. She spotted one Reen just as it peeked around a corner and fired. Arin ducked, returned two quick shots, and the creature dropped. The last one tried to retreat toward the hallway, but Cal anticipated the move. He stepped into the corridor's edge and took the shot. The Reen collapsed in a heap, its weapon clattering beside it. Silence returned. The artifact still hovered, pulsing like a heartbeat. Arin approached it cautiously. We can't leave this here. If Krell gets his claws on it, Cal joined her, breathing heavily. Then let's take it before he does. Can you move it? She reached toward it, then paused. It's responding to me, like it's scanning. Good or bad kind of scanning. Arin didn't answer immediately. Unknown, but it's not rejecting me. Suddenly, the artifact pulsed brighter, and the ring slowed. It gently descended into her open hands as though recognizing her touch. Her breath hitched. It bonded, at least partially. Cal exhaled. Then we carry it out now, before more show up. But before they could move, a tremor rolled through the floor, followed by a distant roar of engines. Cal cursed. Dropship. Reinforcements. They exchanged a look, one filled with unspoken urgency, and sprinted toward the exit. Behind them, deeper in the complex, more shadows began to stir. And high above the ravine, Arin warlord watched from the landing ramp of his descending ship, his eyes locked on the entrance below. Krell, Arin said under her breath as they ran. Cal gripped his rifle tighter. Looks like the real fight's just beginning. Chapter 6. Fire on the wind. Ananag Cal emerged from the Progenitor ruins just as the first shadows of Krell's dropship stretched across the ravine. The sleek obsidian vessel hovered above the ridge with menacing precision, its engines emitting a low, teeth-rattling hum. Heat rippled off its thrusters, distorting the air. Ramps extended from its belly like a predator's fangs. Move, Cal shouted, breaking into a sprint. They darted across the uneven ground, vaulting over twisted roots and chunks of ancient debris. Arin clutched the artifact to her chest, its rings vibrating softly in her grip, pulsing like it knew danger was near. Energy blasts peppered the rocks around them. Reen soldiers, larger than scouts, armored and disciplined, fanned out from the dropship, forming a loose perimeter. Their weapons hissed with green plasma fire. One bolt scorched past Cal's shoulder, grazing his armor. Almost there, he called. Keep low. They slid behind a jagged outcrop near the ridge trail, catching their breath. Cal checked his ammo, frowning. We've got too many on our tail. We can't make it to the lucky break like this. Arin peeked around the stone. Then we hit them hard enough to break through. Cal glanced at the artifact. Can that thing do anything useful? I don't know yet, she said, feeling its weight shift in her arms. It's warm, almost alert, like it's waiting. A deep voice echoed from across the ravine, amplified through a translator collar. Give me the device, and I'll spare your lives. Krell stood atop a rock formation like a conquering general. His exoskeleton gleamed with black plating, and cybernetic implants glowed along his arms and torso. Around him, a dozen Reen warriors bristled with weapons. Charming as always, Cal muttered. What's the plan? Arin's eyes narrowed. We buy time, we get to your ship, then we make sure this artifact doesn't fall into his hands, even if we have to crash it into a sun. Cal grinned head. Sounds like a plan. Together they popped up from cover and opened fire. Arin's shots were precise, targeting knee joints and weapons. Cal's rifle barked in three-shot bursts, each round driving back the Reen vanguard. Explosions of dirt and green ichor filled the air. Krell snarled a command, and his troops advanced. Left flank, Arin warned. Cal turned and launched a mini grenade from his belt. It exploded with a concussive boom, throwing two Reens off balance and giving them a narrow gap. Now, he yelled. They sprinted through the smoke. Arin felt the artifact grow hotter against her chest, its rings spinning faster. Without warning, a wave of energy surged outward from it, throwing nearby enemies to the ground. She stumbled. Cal caught her. You okay? I think it's protecting us. They reached the crest of the ridge. Below them, the lucky break shimmered under camouflage netting. Cal tapped his comm. Initiate emergency startup. Full thrust in 60 seconds. The ship's engines roared to life. From behind, Krell gave a feral howl. You will not escape me. Arin and Cal half ran, half slid down the hill as plasma bolts ripped past. The Lucky Break's rear hatch opened. A turret extended and began laying down suppressing fire. They dove inside just as the ship began to lift. The ramp sealed behind them. In the cockpit, Cal slammed into the pilot's chair, hands flying over the controls. Hold on! Arin strapped herself into the co-pilot seat, still cradling the artifact, its light now brighter than ever. The ship surged skyward, engines howling. Below, Krell's troops scattered, some firing in vain, others retreating as dust and fire swallowed the ravine. Cal glanced over. Still think this is just another recon mission? Arin smiled grimly. I think it's the beginning of something much worse. Chapter 7. Uncharted Paths. The Lucky Break sliced through the atmosphere like a phantom, its hull groaning slightly from the rapid ascent. Arin sat rigid in her seat, her fingers still curled protectively around the Progenitor artifact. The object's pulse had slowed but hadn't stopped. It was like a second heartbeat sinking to her own. She could feel it, not just physically, but mentally, as if it were gently brushing against the edges of her thoughts. Cal adjusted the ship's heading, hands steady on the controls despite the strain lining his jaw. His eyes flicked to the rear scanner. They're not pursuing. Either Krell's regrouping, or he's too smart to follow us into open space without backup. Or he already knows where we're going, Arin muttered, and doesn't need to rush. They entered orbit, stars unfurling around them like a velvet tapestry. Arin leaned back slightly and exhaled. We need to get this thing off-world, somewhere secure, somewhere the Confederation can study it. Cal shot her a quick glance. You sure that's a good idea? They'll lock it away. Or worse, weaponize it. That's better than Krell getting it. Maybe, but if this thing chose you, Arin, maybe it's not meant for a lab. She didn't respond immediately. Her mind was still reeling. From the ruins, from Krell, from the way the artifact had responded when she'd been in danger. It hadn't just protected her, it had felt her fear. We'll figure that out later, she said finally. Right now, I need to contact Confederation Command. Cal nodded. We'll jump to relay range. Give me 10 minutes. She stood up, cradling the artifact in the crook of one arm, and made her way back to the galley. She set it down carefully on the padded bench. It remained suspended an inch above the surface, rotating slowly, casting soft ripples of light across the walls. For a moment, she just stared at it. It was beautiful, mesmerizing even. But beneath its elegance was a quiet hum of power, restrained and waiting. She reached out tentatively and let her fingers brush the outer ring. A shiver went up her spine. You're awake, aren't you? She whispered. The core flared slightly in response. Great, she muttered. A sentient relic, just what I needed. She returned to the cockpit just as the nav system beeped. Relay buoy locked, Cal announced. Punching through now. The screen lit up with a secure connection request. Arin keyed in her credentials, and a hologram shimmered into being. Commander Elthas, her section lead. Stern, blue-eyed, and visibly surprised. Lieutenant Thalos, we lost your signal 3 days ago. I was ambushed. The Reens hit our recon team near Outpost Theta 7. I'm the only survivor. Elthas nodded grimly. We suspected as much. Go on. I've recovered an active Progenitor artifact. The Reens were trying to secure it. A warlord named Krell is involved. He has advanced cybernetic augmentation and controls a well-organized force. He's targeting ancient tech. Elthas stiffened. A Progenitor artifact? Functional? Yes, sir, it bonded with me. There was a pause. Elthas's eyes narrowed. That's highly irregular. Return to Central Command for debriefing and containment. We'll dispatch an escort. Cal leaned forward. No offense, Commander, but if Krell knows where she's going, sending a beacon might just light a target. Elthas frowned. And who are you? Cal Rayner, independent contractor, and the guy who saved your lieutenant's life twice. Arin interjected. Sir, with respect, we need discretion, not a fleet. Give us a location and a private approach vector. We'll get there in one piece. After a long moment, Elthas nodded. Sending encrypted coordinates now. Be careful, Lieutenant. If what you found is what you claim, we're standing on the edge of something big. The connection cut. Cal raised an eyebrow. Edge of what exactly? Arin looked down at the artifact resting between them. It pulsed once, as if answering. Whatever it is, she said quietly, it's already begun. Chapter 8, Quiet Before the Storm. The jump to FTL left the stars behind in a stretched blur, a tunnel of distorted light streaking past the Lucky Break's viewports. In the cockpit, silence reigned, but for the soft hum of the ship and the occasional flick of switches beneath Cal's fingers. Arin sat beside him, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the artifact resting between them on a magnetic cradle. Despite their speed, a strange stillness had settled over them, a calm after the chase, but before something greater. Arin felt it in her bones. They were no longer just passengers of a mission. They were part of something unfolding beyond either of their control. How long until we reach the relay point? She asked finally. Cal glanced at the timer. 8 hours, give or take. Arin leaned back, exhaling slowly. Feels like we're holding our breath for the rest of the galaxy. Cal offered her a sidelong look. You think Elthis will actually help you? Or put you in a cell next to the artifact? I don't know, she admitted. It depends on whether he sees me as an officer or a threat. Cal stood and stretched. Either way, you'll need rest. You have been running for days. Arin started to protest, but a yawn betrayed her. The adrenaline was finally wearing off and the edges of fatigue crept in like frost. Fine, she grumbled, rising. Wake me if the universe ends. I'll give you a 5-minute warning, Cal quipped. She smirked faintly and stepped out of the cockpit, making her way back through the narrow corridor. The ship felt more like a shelter now, a floating haven between worlds. She passed the galley, paused to check the artifact one last time, still dormant, and continued into the small berth Cal had offered her before. When she lay down, the mattress conformed to her shape. The moment her eyes closed, her mind drifted, not into sleep, but into connection. She stood in a vast hall, one made of light and shadow, where walls whispered in languages she didn't know but somehow understood. Shapes moved beyond the periphery, ancient and curious. The artifact floated in front of her, but now it pulsed with awareness, its rings spinning like a solar system. You are seen. You are chosen. The words weren't spoken, they echoed in her mind. Chosen for what? She asked aloud. To be the conduit, the bridge. The vision shifted. She saw images, Earth, Norid cities carved into mountains, Reen warships, and then Krell, his form twisted by greed and ambition, standing before a blackened version of the same artifact. Behind him, galaxies burned. Arin jerked awake, heart pounding. Sweat clung to her skin despite the ship's cool air. The artifact hadn't moved, but its core glowed faintly now. She stood, recentered herself with a slow breath, and made her way back to the cockpit. Cal looked up as she entered. Bad dream? More like a message, she said, retaking her seat. He raised an eyebrow. From that thing? She nodded. It showed me something, said I'm a conduit, that it chose me for a reason. Cal frowned. And Krell? He was there too, holding something like this, corrupted. If he gets another artifact or worse, the same kind, he won't stop at one sector. Cal was quiet for a long beat. Then, you think we're not just running from Krell. You think we're running out of time. Arin stared at the stars ahead. No, I think we're running toward the only chance we have to stop him. Behind them, the artifact pulsed again, brighter this time, as if it agreed. Chapter 9. Echoes in the dark. The Lucky Break dropped out of FTL with a low shudder, stars snapping back into pinpoints of light. The relay system loomed ahead, a derelict Confederate outpost converted into a covert listening post. It hung in space like a jagged metal reef, half lit and camouflaged by a field of sensor-dead debris. Arin and Cal both stared at it from the cockpit with a mix of relief and caution. Not much to look at, Cal muttered, guiding the ship in. But I guess that's the point, Arin nodded. Covert ops, it's meant to be forgettable. As they approached, a docking corridor extended from the station's spine, clicking against their hull with a series of mechanical hisses. A green light flashed on the console. Seal's good, Cal confirmed. We're clear to board. Arin retrieved the artifact, now wrapped carefully in a containment field and secured in a padded case. Though dormant, it still emitted a faint pulse, like a heart in hibernation. She didn't like the idea of separating from it, but protocol was protocol. They entered the station through a tight airlock and were immediately greeted by two armed personnel in dark gray uniforms. One of them, a tall human woman with short hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "Lieutenant Arin Thalos?" "Yes." "Commander Elthis is waiting in briefing chamber 1. Follow me." They moved through dim utilitarian corridors that buzzed faintly with background radiation. The walls were reinforced and unadorned, designed for survival rather than comfort. As they entered the chamber, Arin spotted Commander Elthis standing at a holographic table, hands clasped behind his back. "Lieutenant," he said without turning. "Mr. Rayner." "Sir," Arin replied crisply, setting the case gently on the table. Elthis finally turned, gaze sharp. "I've reviewed the telemetry you sent. Energy spikes from the artifact, psychic signatures, and Reen movement patterns. You're lucky to be alive." "We're not here because of luck," Cal said. "We're here because we fought to survive." Elthis gave him a cool look, then tapped a control on the table. A projection of the galaxy flared to life, red points blinking across several sectors. "Krell isn't working alone. We've seen signs of coordinated movements in at least 3 fringe systems. We believe he's looking for more artifacts. And your vision, Lieutenant, if accurate, suggests he's close to finding one." Arin stepped forward. "Then we stop him before he unlocks something none of us can control." Elthis raised an eyebrow. "And how do you propose we do that?" She hesitated, then placed a hand on the artifact case. "It connected with me. It showed me things. And I think it left a map." Cal's eyes widened. "A map?" "Not in the literal sense," Arin said, "but markers, patterns, fragments of knowledge. I need time with it, a secure lab, quiet, maybe with the right equipment I can reconstruct what it showed me." Eldis studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "You'll have access to our deep analysis bay. We'll keep the station on full lockdown. And Lieutenant?" "Yes, sir?" "If you're wrong, if this thing starts influencing you or becomes a risk, we contain it. No hesitation, no negotiation." Arin didn't flinch. "Understood." Cal frowned but said nothing. An hour later, Arin stood alone in the lab. The artifact opened before her on a stable magnetic table. Holosensors scanned it in real time, projecting streams of data onto the room's walls. She closed her eyes and let her fingers brush the outer ring. "The gate must be closed before it opens." The voice was inside her again, clearer this time. "The path has begun. Others seek it. Only the chosen may complete it." And then, in the darkness behind her eyes, an image, a black world without a sun, ringed by relics, glowing like bones beneath starlight. She gasped and opened her eyes, breath sharp. "Cal," she whispered into her comm, "I know where Krell's going." Chapter 10, The Black World. Cal arrived at the lab within minutes, tension radiating from every step. "Say that again?" Arin turned from the artifact, her expression grave. "It showed me a planet, no sun, no light of its own, but it's surrounded by progenitor constructs, floating structures like orbiting bones. They pulse like they're still alive." Cal crossed his arms. "You think that's where Krell's headed?" "I'm sure of it," Arin said. "The artifact called it the Gate. Whatever Krell's after, it's there." Commander Elthis wasn't thrilled by the idea of acting on a vision, but the readings from the artifact, combined with matching data from long-range scans, were hard to ignore. Within hours, the station's analysts had triangulated a possible location in an uncharted void beyond the edge of Confederation maps. A world known only in old exploration records as Dros Volarn. "Barely a legend," one analyst muttered. "Most crews that charted it never returned." "Then we'll be the exception," Arin said. Preparations were swift. The Lucky Break was refueled and resupplied. A Confederation scout frigate was offered as escort, but Arin declined. "We need speed, not firepower. If Krell beats us there, we'll lose the element of surprise." Uldis relented, offering a single long-range probe and encrypted comm access. "You'll be flying blind," he warned. "Wouldn't be the first time," Cal replied. The journey to Volarn took 12 hours of FTL, much of it in silence. Arin spent most of it in the back, meditating with the artifact. She no longer questioned its presence in her thoughts. They were sharing something now. Memories, instincts, even fears. She could feel it stir when she focused, offering glimpses of ancient halls filled with light, of voices layered across time. When they dropped out of FTL, a heavy silence fell over the cockpit. There it is, Cal said. Dros Valarn was barely a planet at all. It was a black sphere absorbing more light than it reflected, its outline barely discernible against the void. But orbiting it were dozens of progenitor constructs, some shaped like massive wheels, others like floating obelisks. Energy arced between them like faint lightning. The whole system thrummed with power. No wonder people called this place cursed, Cal murmured. Arin's pulse quickened. That's it. That's what I saw. A sudden proximity alert blared. Cal's hands flew across the controls. Ship detected. No IFF signal. Coming out of stealth. A sleek green war cruiser slid out of the darkness, its hull shaped like a blade. Red lights blinked along its spine. And above the bridge, Arin spotted a familiar silhouette. Krell, she hissed. They beat us here, Cal growled. But they don't know we're here yet. Arin's hand hovered over the artifact's case. Then let's keep it that way. Cal adjusted their trajectory, slipping the lucky brake behind one of the massive progenitor rings. The ship's camo netting engaged, rendering them nearly invisible against the coal black. They're scanning, Cal whispered, watching the sensor feed. But not aggressively. They're looking for something specific down there. Arin closed her eyes. They're searching for a structure, a core. That's where the real gate is. And it's not open yet. A sudden tremor ran through the artifact. Its rings spun faster, light building in its center. It's reacting to the planet, Arin said. It's waking up. Cal looked from her to the dark world looming ahead. Then so is everything else down there. Detected Chapter 11, Descent. A low pulse echoed through the Lucky Break's hull, as if the planet itself had exhaled. Arin stood in the cockpit, staring at the swirling progenitor structures orbiting Dros Valarn. The artifact in her arms had become warm, almost hot, to the touch. Its rings rotated faster now, light spilling between them in intricate, almost deliberate patterns. We can't just sit here, she said. If Krell finds the gate before us, he'll do more than open it, Cal finished grimly. He'll use it. They suited up in silence, the gravity of their task weighing heavier than the armor on their shoulders. Arin carried the artifact in a containment harness across her back, cradled in a shock-dampening field. Cal checked and double-checked his weapons. Standard pulse rifle, 2 compact charges, and a reinforced exo-knife. The shuttle bay opened with a hiss. Below them, the surface of Dros Valarn stretched in all directions, a matte black expanse broken only by scattered ruins and jagged ridges that looked more like scars than landmasses. The obelisks above cast faint flickers of energy that occasionally struck the ground like silent lightning. Cal guided the small drop craft manually through the descent. Clouds, if they could be called that, swirled in dense gray sheets, obscuring much of the terrain. There's a clearing near one of the energy nodes, Arin said, pointing at the scanner. It matches what I saw in the vision. They landed with a soft thud. Outside, the air was heavy, thick with static, charged and unnatural. Arin stepped onto the planet with a strange sense of déjà vu. Each crunch of their boots against the obsidian-like soil echoed in her mind like she had been here before. The ruins ahead rose out of the black ground like teeth. The structures were immense and angular, carved with symbols that shimmered faintly under their lights. Arin paused, brushing her fingers across a monolith etched with flowing script. It's a warning, she whispered, about opening something that can't be closed. Encouraging, Cal muttered. A faint hum built in the distance. Cal dropped to one knee and pulled up his visor readout. Movement, 3 clicks of Arin patrol, maybe more. They're converging on the gate. Arin closed her eyes, the artifact buzzed against her spine. It's drawing them like it's drawing us. They advanced through the ruins, staying low behind debris and jagged cover. Arin led with uncanny precision, following instinct more than any map. After 20 minutes, they reached a massive archway, one that led down into the planet itself. Subterranean access, Cal breathed. You think the gate's down there? It's not just down there, Arin said. It is there. The gate is the core. They stepped into the darkness, lights flickering on their suits. The passage descended in a slow spiral, walls lined with hexagonal recesses that pulsed faintly as they passed. The silence was so complete that their breath seemed loud. After several minutes, the passage opened into a cavernous chamber that defied physics. Gravity seemed to twist, curving the space in on itself. In the center hovered a structure unlike anything they'd seen. Dozens of rings interlocked, orbiting a dark void that shimmered with the unnatural light. "The gate," Arin said, breathless. Before they could approach, a growl echoed from the far end. Krell stepped into the chamber, flanked by two elite Reen warriors, their armor etched with symbols similar to the ones on the walls. "You brought it here," Krell said, his voice amplified and filled with something more than arrogance. Certainty. "The key, you've done my work for me." Arin instinctively stepped in front of the gate. "You don't know what this thing really is." "I know enough," Krell growled. "I've seen what it can unlock, what it can make of those strong enough to wield it." Cal raised his rifle. "You're not walking out of here with it." Krell extended an arm, and the energy in the room reacted. The rings around the gate spun faster, and the air crackled with potential. "Then you won't walk out at all," Krell said. And with that, the chamber erupted into chaos. Chapter 12. The Heart of the Storm. The explosion of energy that followed Krell's words knocked Arin backward. She tumbled across the chamber floor, her suit's impact gel absorbing most of the blow. The artifact slipped from her harness, skidding toward the base of the gate, but it didn't hit the ground. It hovered, caught in a stabilizing field that formed as it neared the rings. "Arin!" Cal's voice crackled in her earpiece. She saw him exchanging fire with the Reen elites, ducking behind one of the tilted monoliths. The air shimmered with energy discharges, bolts of plasma searing past as Cal returned shots with surgical precision. Arin scrambled upright. The gate's rings were spinning at impossible speed now, creating a deep, resonant hum that seemed to press against her chest. The artifact glowed bright gold in its field, responding to the gate like a key drawn to a lock. Krell, meanwhile, was advancing toward it, using the energy as cover. His armor adapted in real time, redirecting pulses and converting them into kinetic force. "This was always my fate," he snarled, eyes reflecting the golden light. "You were just the vessel, the messenger." "Wrong," Arin said, voice sharp. "I'm the guardian." She sprinted forward, grabbing the artifact midair. Pain lanced through her arm, but the connection between her and the device surged. She didn't resist. Alignment complete. The gate's rings shifted, creating a hollow tunnel of light. A deep vibration resonated through the floor. Krell lunged for the center, only for Cal to tackle him from the side. They hit the ground hard, struggling against each other in a blur of fists, claws, and steel. One of Krell's cybernetic arms extended a blade, slashing at Cal's ribs, but Cal twisted, jamming his exo-knife deep into Krell's side. "Go," Cal shouted. "Do what you have to." Arin turned toward the gate. The artifact in her hand had fully activated, projecting symbols and pathways into the air. She stepped toward the center, feeling herself lift slightly from the ground. Her thoughts weren't entirely her own anymore. Visions cascaded into her mind. The gate could rewrite life. It could reshape reality. And Krell had seen that too. But there was more. She reached the core of the gate. The chamber darkened as the energy folded inward, and in the void, Arin heard not voices, but choices. Every progenitor structure across the galaxy linked to this moment. The gate wasn't just a door, it was a decision point. Binding choice initiated. A projection formed. Krell's corrupted future. A galaxy reforged in his image. Then another, one of silence, where the gate never opens again. But there was a third path. Harmony, symbiosis, balance between ancient power and the beings of now. Arin's voice was barely a whisper. "I choose the third." Light surged outward, flooding the chamber. The gate stopped spinning. The artifact dissolved into pure energy, fusing with the structure. Krell screamed, not in pain, contain, but fury as his body rejected the power he thought he could command. Cal shielded his eyes, dragging himself clear as the energy pulse flattened the remaining Reens. When the light faded, Arin was on her knees in the gate's center. The room had changed, its walls now etched with new symbols, glowing softly. Krell lay motionless at the far end, his armor dark and inert. Cal limped toward her. Are you still you? Arin looked up, eyes glowing faintly with residual energy. Yeah, she breathed. But something's different. I think, I think I'm part of it now. Behind her, the gate pulsed once, then dimmed. Let's get out of here, Cal said, offering a hand, before this place decides it wants to keep us. Yeah, she took it. And together they climbed out of the darkness. Chapter 13, What Comes After. The shuttle broke atmosphere in silence, stars blooming into view beyond the jagged horizon of Dros Valarn. The planet receded behind them, now less a world than a myth sealed in shadow and light. Arin sat strapped into the co-pilot seat, helmet off, eyes distant. She hadn't spoken much since they left the surface. Cal piloted quietly beside her, one hand steady on the control yoke, the other occasionally brushing the fresh wound on his ribs. He winced but said nothing. The pain was grounding. Real, familiar. You're not glowing anymore, he said at last, voice low. Arin glanced down at her hands. The energy faded after we left the gate, but I can still feel it, like it's listening. To you? No, she said softly. To everything. Silence again, but it was warmer now. Less like a void, more like peace. As they reached orbit, the comm system crackled to life. Confederation Outpost Theta Command to unidentified vessel. Please transmit authorization. Cal toggled the channel. This is the Lucky Break, returning from Special Reconnaissance per Commander Elthis. Transmitting codes now. A pause. Then a different voice came through, Elthis himself. Lieutenant Thalos, Raynor, you made it. Barely, Arin replied. Are you carrying the artifact? She looked at the empty cradle behind them. It's not a separate thing anymore. It's part of the gate, part of the planet, and maybe part of her, Cal added. There was another pause, longer this time. I want you both debriefed as soon as you dock, Elthis said. But, his voice softened, I'm glad you made it back. The data you sent, it's already caused quite a stir. I'm sure it has, Arin muttered. They docked within the hour. Medical crews met them at the airlock, but Arin waved them off with a quiet shake of her head. Cal was less resistant. He let them patch his ribs, though he refused the stretcher. In the debriefing room, Elthis waited alone. The lights dimmed low. We've confirmed the collapse of the Rian strike force. Krell's cruiser was found adrift in high orbit, abandoned. His body wasn't recovered. He's not coming back, Arin said, though part of her couldn't help but wonder. Elthis folded his hands. You prevented something catastrophic. Maybe worse than anything the Confederation could have predicted. But what happened down there, what you became, Lieutenant? I don't have answers, Arin said before he could finish. Only instincts. And a feeling that this was just one gate of many. Elthis stared at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. You're not a scout anymore. But if you're willing, we'd like to create something new. A liaison between our people and whatever you've touched. Arin didn't answer right away. Her eyes drifted to the viewport, where Dros Valarn still shimmered faintly in the distance. I'll think about it, she said. Outside the station, the Lucky Break was already being refueled and repaired. Cal leaned against its hull, watching the stars. When Arin joined him, he straightened, offering her the small pack she always wore. I saved your journal, he said. Figured you'd want it. Thanks. She took it, tucking it under her arm. Then, what about you? He shrugged. I go where I'm needed, or where I'm asked. She smiled. I might have somewhere in mind. He returned the smile, quiet and steady. Then I'll keep the ship warm. They stood there in companionable silence, watching the stars wheel slowly overhead. Somewhere out there, other gates waited, other choices, other battles. But for now, for the first time in a long time, they had time, and they weren't alone. They came for a mission. They survived a war. What they found was a key, one that unlocked more than ancient technology. It awakened purpose, connection, and the realization that some battles aren't just fought with weapons, but with choices. From the shattered ruins of Dros Valarn to the quiet corridors of a drifting outpost, Arin Thalos and Cal Raynor rewrote their own destinies. A bonhus, not as scout and contractor, but as something more. Partners in a new chapter, forged in fire and tempered by trust. The galaxy is vast. The Progenitor gates are many, and the next one could open anywhere. But wherever it leads, they'll face it together. Because this time, they're not alone.